morning, everyone. It's Sunday, May 16th, 2021. Yesterday I talked about having to go ahead and clean up my compost bin. Well, this morning I'm going to go ahead and do that little chore. But while I do, I wanted to go ahead and ask you, if world goes to heck and SHTF, do you have a support group? And I don't mean a group of fellow preppers who have a compound out in the middle of nowhere that you go to and hole up with all your weapons of mass destruction. I'm talking about, do you have somebody that you can look to help out, to make sure that you're all right, and look to for advice on the best way to get things accomplished in your preparedness, and make sure that they fill in holes in what you don't have things that you're an expert at. For instance, I have a whole bunch of gardening things here. I'm not an expert, so I have people that I look to, in addition to YouTube, some other people locally that I talk to about, what do I do to make things happen here in the garden, and get ideas and suggestions on approaches I can take. Yesterday, after I finished filming for the episode that I posted early this morning, I went to a local preppers meeting, you might call it. And it's a group of people who are into preparedness, and like the other meeting that I went to earlier, which was a group of Santa Clauses, I am not really super involved with some of the things that they do, but the presentation yesterday was things that they do to, be prepared, and there were two presentations. One was on purification of water. Well, gee, that's a really out there thing that, a normal person wouldn't do, would they? No, purification of water is kind of important, and it was some good things that I learned, because I wasn't totally aware of them. I do have a water supply, but having a way to purify more is definitely a good thing. The other thing that they talked about, their other main topic, was coffee. A lot of us like coffee. I know I sure do. And they were talking about taking and storing green coffee beans and then processing them, roasting them, grinding them, and getting them ready to use. And the purpose of green coffee beans is that, unlike roasted coffee, it keeps indefinitely, sort of like beans and rice. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be one who would want to go ahead and store and roast my own coffee beans, just because I don't consume that much, not like when I was younger. And I'm the only one in the house who actually drinks coffee. So, this board is definitely rotted away, so I'm going to have to break this up and get rid of it. But no, so what I was providing as a bit of expertise in that particular prepper group was my knowledge of radios. Since I am a ham radio operator and know something about it and have a fair amount of equipment, I do know more than a lot of them do, because not all of them are hams. There are one or two, and I'll be contacting them shortly to go ahead and work out a communication plan for the local area. But I'm the one that one of the ones that they look for for advice on programming handheld radios. I don't think very many of them are interested in the big radios like I use. And if you notice the cords on the wall, those are cables going up to my antenna. And I'll talk about that in another future episode. But I was able to go ahead and I brought my laptop along and programming cable, and I was able to program at least one person's handheld radio this time. Now, the last time I went to one of these meetings 2 months ago, everybody was getting their radio programmed, so we programmed a lot of them. And the next time I go, probably in June or July, we're going to do the same thing again, and hopefully be able to start using the things if things ever come to that. Well, today, as I said, I'm cleaning up my compost bins. What you see me doing right now is going through, and what I did yesterday after my prepper meeting is I went ahead and got the rake and raked up all the pine needles that had fallen in the beds, because I don't really need these pine needles in the future compost. And I get enough of them from all the from the big pine trees here in the southeast corner of my property, so I just go ahead and rake these up and send them off to the landfill, or to the they actually have a truck comes along and picks up yard waste, so they actually compost the stuff, so it doesn't go to waste. But I go ahead and get it off my property. I don't try to recycle it. There's just too much of it, and it would screw up the chemical balance of my topsoil. I don't need that much acidity. So now I've got the most of the pine needles out of here. So what I need to do now, I've got some more on this side. What I've got here for my compost bin, I built this I think a year and a half ago in the fall, and I filled it up last year, and the mixture with all the sticks and twigs, as I said, really made it difficult to turn the mix. So it's just like, okay, this year I need to clean it up. I need to remove all those sticks and get it so that I can actually stick a shovel into it and dig in it. Now you can see I go ahead and stick a shovel, and there's a lot of roots in there. It has composted very nicely, but I can't really dig it when I reach in here and grab stuff like this, because this makes it hard to shovel into a wheelbarrow so that I can take it up and put it into the garden. This stuff is very nicely composted. It was, yeah, here's some wood, and the wood does break down. You can see there's some big chunks of, I don't know, a log or something. There was some of that kind of stuff that got tossed in here. But the wood doesn't break down very quickly. If I left this go for another year or two, it would all break down and it would be great. But as it is, I really need to go ahead and go through this and remove as much of the fibrous material as I can, so that it the rest of it will be usable. And there were some, when I built this thing, I had some little pieces of wood left over. I just tossed them in the compost bin, and that really probably wasn't the smartest thing I could have done. But now I'm going to clean it up so that what's left is very good dirt. Now, when I built this thing a year and a half ago, I basically thought, okay, what I want to be able to do is throw compostable material in one side, and then every month or whatever, I'll take it and shovel it from this side to the other side, basically overturning the pile. And then I can start fresh on the empty side while this completes composting, and then I just go ahead and pull it out and use it. So I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing here as far as compost, the stuff that I throw in here are any kitchen scraps like leftover lettuce or eggshells or things like that. We'll just throw them in here. And truthfully, at the end of the season, all that potting soil that we get that are in those pots up there, that stuff is depleted. You can go ahead and re-energize it by going ahead and adding fertilizers to it. But what I like to do is I'll just go ahead and add it to my compost pile along with all the vegetable material and all that kind of stuff and let it compost. And I can see that if you look into the material here, I can see there's was obviously compost because there's like what the heck they call that stuff, the perlite mixed in. So there was obviously some potting mix as part of it. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'm going to go through this whole pile here, clean up the other side, and I'm going to pull sticks out. And I've already done that last fall on this side. I went ahead and excavated it and threw it over on this side, but I didn't pull out all the sticks. I just pulled out some of them. So what I'll be doing here now is I'll go through and make sure I get this down to base ground, if I can determine what that is. And I will remove all the sticks, and then as I go through and sift through this stuff, when I get the stuff that doesn't have any sticks in it, I'll throw it back on this side so I have a pile of stuff that's ready to use in the garden. And then fresh scraps from the kitchen and whatnot, we'll accumulate them inside in a small bucket or something, and then every time that fills up, we'll bring it out here and dump it in the pile. And I need to go ahead and finish this compost bin off and put some sort of a top on it. What I had done originally to keep the rain off of the compost is I'd put a tarp over it, but that really doesn't work that well because the wind picks it up and it's all over. What you see up there right now is my ladder, and the reason the ladder's over here instead of over where it usually belongs is I was using it on my antenna, and I need to get up there and do some fix up, which we'll do sometime in the future. But right now it's just up here to get it out of the way, and when I'm finished putting up the antenna or fixing the antenna, I'll be bringing it and putting it away again. So in the meanwhile, I don't like to move it that much back and forth because it is kind of heavy for such a big ladder, and I don't like moving heavy things as much as I used to. So that's that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and continue working on this, but I wanted to go ahead and show you that I do other things other than mowing lawns and planting things in the garden. Oh, let me go ahead and show you something. When I was at the prepper meeting like yesterday, one of the people there had brought a bunch of Malabar spinach in little teeny cups, paper holders, and it was basically that everybody have some because she's been growing it for years, and no matter how much she clears out, it just keeps growing. So she wanted to offer everybody who wanted some, so I took one, and I'll show you what that's all about. I got it in this morning. I need to go ahead and put up some trestling. The Malabar spinach is, I'll have to go around the back. I only got the one, but that's probably more than enough. The Malabar spinach is this little fella right here, and it's a little wilty right now because I watered it in real good. And it's a climbing vine. It's not a true spinach. I went ahead and researched online. It's not a true spinach, but it is a spinach-like. It tastes like spinach. It cooks like spinach. And since it's a climbing vine, what I need to do is go ahead and put some of that vine netting on this thing here so it has a trellis to climb up. And since what I've got in there along that row right now is beets. Beets don't climb, and they are a ground cover. So as I go ahead and put the trellis in, the Malabar spinach will climb up the trellis netting, and it won't be in the way of the beets. And I'll be able to go ahead and harvest that. It'll spread over this entire trellis. And as I understand it, although it is an annual, it drops seeds fairly good, and it will self-seed for next year. So this will be my Malabar spinach patch up and down this trellis. And we'll just have to make sure that, we've got good netting here every year so that it will climb. And since it is at the back of the yard, you might say, the most of the sun will be coming from the west in the afternoon. It's not going to shade out any of the rest of the plants. What is behind me here is a rose bush that I got to prune, and a goji berry that is doing well, and my pawpaw tree. I do have plans, and I have ordered it to get a couple more goji berry, put one over there, and replace one up here. I don't know if this one is going to survive or not. It's looking really sickly, but I'm seeing green leaves on it, so maybe it's recovering. If this one recovers, I'll find somewhere else to place. It's never a problem to find room for another plant. So I'm really pleased that some of the progress I'm seeing here. I'm not sure what this plant is. It may be a weed, because this one is comfrey. This is not comfrey, so I'm thinking it's a weed. It looks like a weed. So I'm going to probably come out and pull that after a bit. And I got to do some major weeding back here anyway, because as you can see, I got weeds coming up in my paths. Now yesterday, one other thing I did is I had a couple of bags of drainage rock, i.e. gravel, and I didn't need them for any construction projects right now, so I just dumped them right in here. I intended to go ahead and gravel these paths. This one especially, because the gap between those blocks and that wall was very narrow. It was about a foot wide, hard to walk in. I planned to bring the whole thing up so that I'd be walking in that area too at the same level as the path. So I did a little bit there, but I need a couple more bags. I went ahead and bought another dozen bags of gravel. I'm going to go ahead and gravel this entire section of path. During the summer later on, I plan to do all the paths that way, a little bit at a time, so it's not like I'm carrying 100 bags of gravel back here, because I ain't up to that. I can do 5 or 10 bags at a time in the wheelbarrow, but that's it. Today's projects, I don't know if I'll film them or not, including going ahead and putting my little border wall on my little dog patch, i.e. little lawn there for the dog. I got to clean up some of the messes she's left. Over here in bed number 8, you can see the squash is banging. I got some peppers going there pretty good. I think I got a tomato in there that's looking, I don't know if that's the bugs are getting to it or what, but that's something. I'll have to keep my eyes on it, put some pesticide of some sort on it, and get some of the neem oil or something might help. I do see a lot of blossoms there on those squash though, so maybe we'll be seeing some squash here sometime later this summer. But got some tomatoes there in the back under that little trellis that I have not seen much growth out of yet, so don't know if we'll get enough light there or what. Not really seeing much anything in this bed. That's number 10. Over there, the potatoes looking pretty good. More squash blossoms. So I think we're cooking along here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one to bed and go back to working in the compost bin. And we'll see you at another time. This is Don't forget to hit the like button and comment and subscribe, and we'll see you another time. This is Some Old Man signing off.